How long can we hold on until we spiral out of control? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My Nicholas just hit the microphone. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for being here, clicking on the video, showing up, stopping by, sliding on in like a penguin on ice. Today, we are listening to Spiral by Vangelis, 1977. Couldn't tell you exactly which album this is in his discography. I'm pulling it up really quickly just to see which. Okay, this is his fifth studio album in his discography. It wasn't listed there. I had to go through really quick and just count it out. Like I said, it released in 1977. We're listening to this album because several of you had been suggesting this one. Just to note a few of you: John Whip, Nidals, Vins Graphics, Lightmain. You've been asking for this one for a while, several years as a matter of fact. Illumi L10 and Pam, thank you. Music Droog, Zay Daya, Damon Ramirez, Rob Boron, All Nitak, hopefully I'm pronouncing these names correctly, Caden Richards, Freddie Barber, Mr. Zeph Klopp, and the list goes on from there. Palantir, Migodula, Bob Shirley, Prague Queen, Philip Chambers, Tim Keefe, and it goes, I'm scrolling and it's going down, down, down. The earliest mention of this, Jonathan Smith, 4 years ago. Thank you all so much for the suggestion. I appreciate it. We've listened to a little bit from him before, and now it's time to make a hopefully welcome return with this album Spiral. Like I said, of what you guys have been talking about and suggesting. I don't really have a long intro. To be honest, I don't have a long intro or anything. I made a cup of pozole, which is a Mexican drink. My wife and I went to a Mexican supermarket. Well, more of a grocery store than a supermarket / restaurant. Really, really cool local place that's been there for years. And I got some pozole, so I'm just mixing it up, making it's a nice corn. It's like corn, cinnamon, sugar, milky drink. It's just a very simple, sweet kind of flavored milk, basically. But it tastes great. Maybe I'll have some regrets later as someone who's a little bit lactose intolerant, but it doesn't matter. It's about what goes in, not what comes out. Anyways, press the like button if you don't mind before we dive into it. We're going to pretty much just jump straight on in. Patreon's there. Buy me a coffee's there. But if you don't mind, just that like button. Just clicky for me. All right, let's go ahead and dive on in with the first track. Oh, I don't even have it pulled up. Oh, my God. I didn't even pull up the album. Okay, it's coming. There we go. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into this track. The title track actually starting us off with Spiral. And as always, my friends, I got to start because it's still a little gritty. As always, this first sip of pozole and whatever else you're sipping on is to you. Does kind of sound like a synthy spiral of sorts. It's got that boomerang. You throw it, it comes back. It's not quite coming back the same this time. How it has come in stronger. very cinematic. Second synth line coming in. Quick transition out of this. Love the percussion there. It's a very beautiful, masterful intro. Heralding something, the return of something. It's coming to a head here. Like the organ. So great intro to this album. That's the perfect, almost overture-esque piece of music to engage us and involve us, at first into this album, into the spiral. And that kind of captures a lot from Vangelis. I mean, it captures the creative ambience, the creative use of electronics and sounds, and actually putting us into the piece. The way that in the very beginning, the music goes out like a boomerang and then comes back with that sequencer. Feels really, really nice. All the ambience and, playful, but yet kind of cinematic and serious synths, and the way that they're playing coming on top of everything comes across really, really nicely. I love especially how in the end, as he builds up towards that climax, he starts to involve little bits of percussion, maybe about halfway through. Then, the drums, the kick, you get a little moment with a snare roll. And I like how it's used minimally, but still very expressively and still rhythmically moving us towards that goal, moving us towards that ending, which we travel from kind of these distant skies into something very, very triumphant by the end. And that's one thing about, his music that I've always enjoyed. And of course, he's done the soundtrack for many a movie and such, obviously. But it always has this very cinematic feel. Even when we listen to Heaven and Hell, which is a little bit more abstract, for me, it still gave me a lot of mental images and visuals alongside of the music, because I think that the way that he performs and composes allows for these kind of sound pictures to be created in your mind. And I really like how that's done here with what he's doing. Now, I do see here on Wikipedia, which I didn't really look up before, but this album is considered a concept album. It says, thematically inspired by ancient Tao philosophy, exploring the nature of the universe moving in spirals. On the front cover is cited Tao Te Ching, which says at the bottom of the album cover, going on means going far. Going far means returning. So that's kind of cool, like the philosophy. So it's all spirals, kind of like Junji Ito's the story with spirals. And so everything going out, everything coming back, going within, going without. I'm sure something like that is going to be explored instrumentally. And so I guess you could argue in a sense, like I said in the very beginning, the going out and back and forth of the music. Let me pull it back up here really quick. I guess you could argue is like that going and returning, right? Going far, the way that it goes and leaves and comes back. It's like spiraling and coming back at the end. It's like a circle, a spiral. You go so far, you come right back. And then by the midway point, I like how there's a slightly darker tone here in the shift, but you still continually have, you kind of heard it in the brief clip there, you still have that sound going back and forth, that sequencer. It's kind of always there. So even as the music moves on off of that and transitions to other moments and different scenes, you still have that story that's lurking back there. And even when you get to the end here, maybe before here, this is, like I said, this is that big triumphant moment. And that little false ending builds right back. Like for one more time, right? Like a spiral. It goes out and then it comes back. So I think we're going to get a lot of kind of musical moments like that, where it's going to end or, move somewhere, but then return, perhaps in certain ways. But I thought that was a really great opening track. Let's go ahead and move on into the next one, which is Ballad. Here we go. Oh, by the way, I totally forgot to say, I should have said this in the very beginning, but I forgot to say it with, like, not ambience, but, sometimes ambient or electronic music like this. I don't always have a lot of expressions because, with this kind of music, I'm just kind of listening to it. So it's not that I'm necessarily bored. I'll tell you if I'm bored later. But it's not like there's going to be like a big head-banging moment, or for all I know, maybe there will be. So you may not see like a lot of action from me, but we'll talk after. All right, Ballad. Here we go. soundscape. Their lyrics? I don't think so. I think it's just vocals sampled or something. I think that's just him kind of humming, because I don't see lyrics for this one. I do like the way he's manipulating his vocals there. And those synths are kind of just calmly ebbing and flowing in the back. Big climax there. I really like that. There's like a nice melodic explosion, and it brings us right back down here. I actually really like that. That was cool. Almost playing in the same path as a saxophone here. That's really good. Sorry, it's thundering. A lot of play with those chords. This is a really cool track. See, it went out and now it's spiraling back almost. I wonder what he's saying. Like how he's having a duet with the synths almost right here. That's a calm pad. This padding right here. Man, that's another wonderful, wonderful track. I love how gentle and beautiful and emotional it sounds. It's called Ballad, and very much appropriately, it is the softer side compared to, you know, the gentle but climaxing constants of Spiral before that and the storytelling there. I really, really like the almost jazzy flavor that one lead synth coming in about halfway through to the ending kind of had, especially because it had the same essence as a saxophone. And even the spacing that was being, you know, played with there and the ambience in that particular section kind of reminded me very much of like a jazz noir kind of soundtrack, something composed by like Bernard Herrmann of like Taxi Driver, like that kind of sound where there's this very, very light, gentle, almost more implied than actually played kind of jazz that's happening in the back, with maybe a lonely saxophone or some light piano notes just kind of tickling on top of that. Really, really enjoyed the way that he handled that there. And I'm sorry, by the way, I don't know if it's going to rain because you guys are probably hearing the thunder. It's definitely a Florida thing. It's sunny outside. I'm looking right now outside. It's sunny, but you know, that was a loud one. You're going to hear that probably throughout the recording. I'm sorry. It adds to the ambience. But the gentle padding, it's like a warm bath, some of the sounds that he was using as layers. And of course, we have to talk about what I can only assume is Vangelis himself, you know, kind of scatting, you know, kind of singing, wordless singing to himself or into the microphone, manipulating that through some sort of filters and whatever. And it gives this a really nice piece of humanity, whereas his music actually already sounds like that. It gives it a nice piece of humanity and kind of something to gently follow, like we're following someone on some sort of travel as they're just kind of muttering thoughts to themselves. And that's kind of like what I see and what I hear. And I love how kind of catchy it is at the same time in what he's saying and what he's singing. You're not going to be saying any particular words, but you're going to da 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 da. Like it's just very gentle kind of self-musings that he's doing there. This was a really fantastic track. This one, if I had a playlist for like this type of music, I would put this on my playlist. I just don't have a particular playlist where I could include this. I would have to think about it. I do want to add it onto a playlist for myself personally. I just have to think about where I'd put it because That was really, really beautiful. And there was like a slight moment of climax. There was that one moment where the music did become a little bit more uproarious. But the way that it was handled, I thought was really well done. It kept the track from being predictable. It kept the track from being stopped and locked into one particular lane. It gave it a different kind of depth, even for just a brief moment. And then it returned, you know? It didn't sound out of place. It felt earned. And I would say definitely satisfying. Really, really nicely done. Let's go ahead and move on to the next track, which is Dervish, which would be the dancers who spin around and spiral, which makes sense with, you know, the theme of the album. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Oh, we're getting fun again. Cowbell there. There's a bluesiness to this right here, right? I love this almost harmonica kind of solo there. This one has a cool kind of playfulness to it. Love that little cowbell there. See how that ambience carried through now, little notes. nice soloing from. Heard that little flutter. Little bits of piano. Sounds like vocals as well again. Or organ. I was not paying attention to the runtime at all. I was actually not paying attention to the runtime at all. That was good. That was good. Okay, so this completes the first half of the album. Yes. In the first half of the album, we have gone in a nice journey that can be so easily just played from start to finish. We gone from a nice kind of main title theme, a nice overture that kind of has a little bit of everything, into ballad. We softened things up, gave ourselves a little bit more space and ambience. And then in this track, we gave ourselves a little bit more playfulness. Vangelis, he's just going off and soloing. And a lot of here, some of the chords are very much bluesy as well. And the way that he performs or in that rhythm there, is very bluesy, which is a kind of cool flavor. But he takes that formula and he morphs it into something that's purely and individually Vangelis himself. And I love that. The little light sprinklings of piano that play kind of in the background and the sidelines of the music is also really nice. I like the gentle, but like I said, playful rhythm and how it pulses and moves. The sound that he's choosing in here, that very pitchy, not necessarily sound-wise, but the playing itself, the direction kind of reminds me perhaps of like harmonica and how that might be played in something somewhat similarly bluesy to an extent if you changed a few things. But this was a nice, cool track. And like I said, it feels really good when an album has a really nice journey, but also a nice diversity in that journey. But it also makes sense. There's also a seamless direction. There's a direction you can see and feel and hear, obviously, from the musician, from the band, from the artist, and it's kind of clearly executed here. And then I don't know for sure, but I think that in this track, I heard at the end some more of those processed vocals. I don't want to say for sure because as I was listening, it also sounded like it could have been organ. So my ears may have deceived me on this one. I did pull up a video of some of the Dervish dancers. I just Googled it really quick just to pull them up. Now, I don't remember. I know that if I remember correctly, it's part of their worship that they dance. But let's actually learn a little bit together. How about that? Let's see. All right, so this is Sufi whirling. That's what it is. I'm on Wikipedia, by the way. That's why I'm reading this here. It's a form of physically active meditation which originated among certain Sufi groups, and thunder scared me that time, and which is still practiced by the Sufi dervishes of the Mevlevi order. All right, it is a customary meditation practice performed within the Sema or worship ceremony through which dervishes aim to reach greater connection with Allah. Okay, I knew that it was related in some capacity to, they were reaching or trying to reach something. I just couldn't remember exactly what. This is sought through abandoning one's nafs, ego, or personal desires by listening to the music, focusing on God, and spinning one's body in repetitive circles, which has been seen as a symbolic imitation of planets in the solar system orbiting the sun. That's really cool. I think that is really, really cool. And of course, once again, this is clearly relating to the spirals once again. And, that's we got in this album and the theme of it, and also perhaps a connection to something greater than ourselves. That's a really cool, that's a nice cultural example to bring into the theme of this album, I think that's really cool. That was really, really wonderful. All right, that ends the first side of the album. Now it's starting to rain. It's a little cloudier now. It's a little cloudier. That thunder did scare me, though. I'm not going to lie. All right, let's flip it over, move on to the next track, which is going to be To the Unknown Man. Here we go. Kind of reminds me in some ways to the beginning of the first track with Spiral. Nice resolution to that meter. He does a wonderful job of creating these kind of slow building, inspirational, motivational, symphonic, ambient kind of pieces and moments. Higher octaves. Resolution again. And every time a new layer is added right there, those horns almost. Scared me. That scared me. It's that inspirational march. You can feel the cinema listening to this. See what's added next in this resolution. Little horn blows, little staccato. Little pulse on the bass. Next one. Bigger synth horns. Playing a new melody and lead. coming to something. I like how at this point that main melody has changed. That's good. Love that. That's like victorious at the end. Still the riser. Like that little bass line. And still the journey continues on kind of like magnificently. Because after the 3 different emotions and journeys taken on those first 3 tracks, the 4th one is like, okay, where are we going to go from here? What are we going to do that's different, but of course still transitioning seamlessly throughout what we've heard before? And To the Unknown Man is just this 9-minute buildup of a track, and it's everything that's happening within that buildup. I love the, what I can only assume are live instruments that are also making place here, you know, when the drums come in. I love that moment. Obviously, it's supposed to be a big moment. And for a track like this, it's not like there's some huge Phil Collins drum fill or some big buildup, and then it gets into like some crazy groove. No. It's like a super quick little fill, like nothing basically. And then it's just a straight, you know, a straight 4/4 groove. Nothing crazy at all being played in there. But how much of an effect does that simple groove make in a track like this after all of the buildup that's been happening before? And of course, just before those drums came in, that lead melody that was being played for probably about 6 minutes or so changes completely into something kind of, to me, kind of feeling victorious. And not like victorious like, you know, all our warriors are slain and there's like 10 of us left victorious. We made it through the mud, the blood, the fury, the fire. We survived. No, this was like, maybe it's because it's Vangelis. This was like, we won a race. And we're all smiling and celebrating. We're going to go get pizza after. You know, like this is like that kind of victory. And I like how still that air of levity is maintained in the music. Ba-da, ba-da, ba-da-da-da. Like, you know, it's snappy. It moves really nicely. And that build up in the first half, let me pull it back really quick. I love when the snare drum came in. It scared me, to be honest, when it started. But we kind of get back to something similar from the first track with Spiral. And, you know, it starts off a little bit ambient, a little spacey, kind of coming back and forth. But, you know, about 2 minutes in here, like, this to me is reminiscent of the opener with Spiral. And I like how with each of those times that the phrase repeats, when it comes back, in this spiral and it repeats itself, something new is added. There's always a new element added or some new notes being played by an instrument that is already there being just, played now. So I like how on one hand, it's predictable. When you hear the end of that phrasing, ba-da-da-da-da-da, when you hear it go there and you know it's going to, come back again, you know something new is coming. And this is just a constant build up, ramping up, elevation until you get to, see, simple drum fill. Look at that. That smiling, roll the credits kind of climax. Very satisfying. The notes are satisfying. I should let play. It zings. And so for 3 minutes, we have a nice ecstatic kind of resolution that I think plays into the rest of this track extremely well. This is a really fantastic album. I'm very impressed listening to this, to be honest. And yes, it's a little bit more, well, not a little bit more. It's a lot more straightforward, for example, than Heaven and Hell. But I do like the approach here. And when I think about Vangelis, Jar, Tangerine Dream, all these different electronic artists, they all have their place on the Mount Rushmore of, pioneering this type of music. And they all sound very distinct from each other, which I think is also really cool. Just how different their music sounds and the goals that they were trying to accomplish in this time. Let us move on into the final track here, which is going to be 3 + 3, which equals 6 as far as I know, but the track is a little bit more than 6 minutes. Let's go. There's that sequencer. This sounds like Tangerine Dream. Simple melody over that sequencer. It's a good start. Almost sounds vocal again. It's like fantastical and magical, this one. It's like a fantasy waltz. That's extravagant. That sounded like it broke it. That's like fun jazziness. That's synth jazz. Let's get back to that soloing. I like that echo that new sound has. That see, like it has a double sound to it. That's really cool. Doing that solo thing, you got the big hits and then a space for him to solo a few notes. One more time, probably. That's funny. He's leaning into that rock phrasing. Oh, a few more times, huh? It's very harmonica-esque. Big overarching synth. Big orchestral hits. Kind of sounds like tablet now. This is the track where it feels like you're getting everything. Theremin. sound. Still got almost a minute. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Vangelis, Spiral, 1977, fifth album, done. Complete, reaction, finished. And 3+3 is probably the most complete track in the sense of including a little bit of everything, I feel, from the previous tracks. From the pulsing, that coming in and out like we heard in Spiral, to some of the fun kind of movements of the previous tracks like Dervish. You're going to get a little bit of everything here. This is where I feel like he's letting loose a little bit. Even kind of taking that, like how I mentioned with one of the previous tracks, like the bluesy kind of chords. Here he kind of takes on a little bit more of the rock aspect, especially that very specific phrasing where you have a bunch of hits or something, and then you leave a space for someone in the band to solo. He does that here. He has those big orchestral hits, and then he starts playing around on the synth there. And I just think that that is so much fun. That kind of brings a smile to my face. And I think that that brings such a, not comic, because I don't mean for it to sound like, oh, he's funny, he's making a joke. But it does bring a sense of levity into the music when he does stuff like that. It's like through all this electronic experimentation and all the synths and soundscapes he's creating, these kind of cinematic experiences he's performing for us, sometimes he just wants to rock out too. Sometimes he just wants to throw out a little bit of a solo in a sense. And I think that he does that really nicely in there. This track, like I said, kind of has everything from the kind of calm, mystical leanings in the ending, I would say, to in the beginning, kind of something similar to, like I said, with Spiral. I didn't mean for it to start so loud. But you get a big symphonic kind of sound as well through here, which kind of leads us further and further to the end. And in the middle, like I said, is bridged by some very fun, flavorful aspects. I would say that this track is my least favorite. I didn't say bad, I just said least favorite out of the album, because I feel like every single track here up to this one had a very clear purpose in where it was leading. And I think it may just be the aspect of this being the end and kind of a very good summary of everything, because it kind of includes everything that I wanted. I think I just wanted the journey to continue a little bit more. Actually, I think that's what I'm feeling more so than anything else. But I do think that this is the weakest track on the album. I don't think it's a weak album, though. Let's look at some of the info on here, though, on Wikipedia really quick. We talked about what's on the album cover with that quote there as well. It said it was a less known and acclaimed album than the two which preceded in the 70s, Heaven and Hell, which we've listened to, and Albedo 0.39, which we have not listened to. It reached number 38 on the Dutch album charts in 1978. Let's see, it was the album's entirely instrumental apart from Vangelis' processed vocals on Ballad, which we mentioned. He plays synths, sequencers, piano, drums, and percussion. The Yamaha CS80 synth is featured for the first time on a Vangelis album. He returned to the synth many times in subsequent albums. Sorry. and looking at this, like I said, he's doing everything. He's doing everything. And I think that he did everything really, really great in here, what he was performing. Favorite track, if you couldn't tell, is very, very easily Ballad. I think that was just a very beautiful, beautiful piece of music that has to find a place somewhere in my playlist. I'm not quite sure where, but I got to find a place for it because it definitely deserves it. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed this album reaction. I hope that you had a good time listening to it alongside with me. Hopefully you found something in here that also you could enjoy and appreciate as well. Before you penguins slide on out, I don't know why I'm calling you penguins, press that like button for me. It helps a great deal. Of course, if you wish, you can support what I do on Patreon for as little as $2 a month. You can also support and, get a song request over on Buy Me a Coffee. Skip the line, so to speak. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Come back tomorrow. I'll see you all later, guys. Bye.